So last night was August 19th, 2024. We had a super moon, a very rare kind of moon called the blue moon. And all through the night I was having a particularly odd series of dreams. I must have woke up about half a dozen times thinking, why can't I just sleep straight through the night and wake up when daylight peeks through the blinds? The bigger problem being that because I had so many dreams, I did exactly what we're told not to do. I didn't keep a dream journal. When you wake up, and you should have a dream journal right there that you can quickly jot down what you experienced in the dream. Write it down, remember it, document it, and then you can revisit it at a later time looking at your notations to figure out what the dream was about. But I do remember two of my recent dreams. One was about a scenario where I felt another person had wronged me. And when that happens, we have to be mindful that when you get into a situation where it's one person against the other and there's no independent witness, that one word against the other can really be a crapshoot, right? So, for example, let's say like in real life, I had an accident and a police officer was called. And so we have these two individuals now, myself and this other person I got in the accident with, who are now subject to the whims of the police officer. And so I remember after having this accident, the woman is yelling at me, and I knew from the way the accident happened that she was the one at fault, right? I had a open road, and she had a stop sign. She did not yield at the stop sign to the oncoming traffic, which was me, which meant that she's at fault because she cannot begin to venture into that intersection until she's sure that she's clear to make that move. But she's yelling at me and she's saying, "Oh, I'm going to get a big fat ticket. I better get my act together, have my insurance out, blah blah blah." But the opposite happened. The officer comes in and rightfully recognizes how the accident happened, and he cites her. And I've done this for years because I actually worked as an insurance adjuster myself in a previous occupation, so I understand how these things work. Of course, she also had privilege. She basically, is crying and she's, giving puppy dog eyes to the police officer, like, "Oh, please don't hurt me, please, oh, I didn't know any better. Oh my God." Now she's suddenly changed from the person who wanted to see me suffer to this person like, "Oh no, please, please, please don't hurt me. No, I don't want a ticket. Oh, it'll ruin everything. I'm a teacher. I go to school. I teach kids." And he's just like, "All right, I'm not going to give you the ticket." Now, of course, if things had been the other way around and I was the one getting the ticket, would it have happened that way? Probably not. So here's the thing. Going back to the dream now. The dream seems to be part of a recurring message that someone wants to hurt me. And so, someone doesn't mean well for me. And by the same token, not only do they want to hurt me, but they're probably trying to be very calculating and sneaky about it. Because one thing that you don't want to do when you're being calculating and sneaky trying to get away with something is you don't want to get caught, right? In other words, they want to harm you, but they also want to play the victim at the same time. Like, "Oh my God, he's the bad guy. I didn't do anything wrong. I was just minding my business." People are out there, they do this all the time. Unfortunately, we live in a twisted, sick society where a lot of people love to do exactly that, right? Just imagine like two people that get into a fight, and then all of a sudden they're running to the courthouse, each trying to file a restraining order against the other, saying the other is the monster, right? So in this dream now that I had, subsequent to the other dream about getting arrested by a police officer, and then the police officer doesn't want to help me and then takes me to jail. The second dream that I have is that um, someone stole my shoe, which is really odd, right? Why does somebody take your shoe? But it was weird. They took my shoe. They didn't want both shoes. They just wanted one shoe. It was a woman actually, so she's not even going to be wearing this kind of shoe because she's going to be wearing women's shoes, not men's shoes. Very strange. And when I see her stealing the shoe, I notice that she's wearing the shoe upside down because if all you can see is the bottom of the shoe, then nobody can say, "Well, oh yeah, I see the top of the shoe. It looks like your other shoe." It's like she was like wearing it upside down so that nobody could figure out that it was the same shoe that came from my foot. So now, I'm looking around and I'm thinking, well, maybe when she stole my shoe, maybe it was caught on camera. And of course, she's now frowning because she's like, "Oh no, 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 you're not going to set me up," and blah 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 blah. So she runs inside her house, which is like right across the street. She slams the door. She like triple locks it. Like nobody better come in here unless they have a warrant. You know what I mean? And so what am I getting out of these dreams? What I'm getting out of these dreams is that someone wants to hurt me, somebody wants to take from me, somebody wants to steal from me, and they don't want to get caught doing it. And so here's the thing. I'm going through a phase in my life where I'm trying to change my reality. I mean, heck, we're all on here. We're all going through a spiritual awakening and ascension. At some point, we want better for ourselves. That if we keep trying, something will give. And so, I can almost think back to a year ago, probably when I was in a different mindset, when I was in a more beaten mindset, where maybe somehow I thought that, you know what, if my life sucks, I probably deserved it. I probably did something bad. I probably was to blame. Maybe I racked up karma. Maybe that karma, is now coming to bite me in the butt because clearly I must have it coming, right? In other words, why would the universe be so cruel to me? Why me? Why me? Right? But there are more things than that could be going on. It's not all about karma if you find yourself being in this position where you just don't feel comfortable, you feel like life is against you. There are a couple reasons why that could be happening. And in particular, like I had imposter syndrome, right? And so the thing about imposter syndrome is somebody thinks they're not worthy of something. So in a way, perhaps I'm telling the universe that I don't think I'm worthy. I don't think I deserve certain things. So the universe is going to give you exactly that, right? Because remember from Hermetic principles, the universe is mental. That's one of the principles. And so therefore, as within, so without. So if I continue to believe that I'm incompetent, if I continue to believe I'm an imposter, if I continue to believe that I don't deserve nice things, then that's what the universe is going to give me. It's going to keep giving me trash. It's going to keep giving me terrible things. It's going to keep on punishing me because I don't know any better. I don't know how to take control of my universe. I don't know how to have that conversation with God to let God know that, you know what, I am worthy of more. And think about it like this. Like, I think the other day I was looking at my DNA profile on one of these DNA services website, and they tell you all these interesting things. Like they'll tell you things like, oh, more likely to develop, I don't know, high blood pressure, or oh, more likely to be lactose intolerant, all kinds of things. So I'm looking at my profile. It says, most likely to be extroverted. And I'm just thinking to myself, wait, what? Like what? And I'm laughing. I'm laughing and I'm laughing and I'm laughing. But it's actually something that's not funny because when you actually think about what really happened, I was an extrovert. But we have to go back. We have to go back to something called childhood trauma. And so in childhood trauma, what happened is this. When I was young, I was a chatterbox. I loved chatting it up with kids at school. I loved telling jokes. I loved being the class clown. I loved being social. That was something that I enjoyed so much that I ate it up every chance I got. And so my parents, on the other hand, they're kind of like the aggressive, tiger parents you might hear of. I'm not saying every tiger parent's going to act the way my parents did, but they had that idea, right? That they're going to make your life difficult. They're going to push you to do certain things. On the honor of our family, you have to do better for the honor of our family. So what will eventually happen is they're going to say, well, I need to drive your behavior into extinction. In other words, how do I drive your behavior into extinction? Well, back then, corporal punishment was one of the number one ways that people used to do this. And I know that nowadays that's not really socially acceptable. That's something that we've at least started to evolve over time. Although some households still have corporal punishment, and that's gonna be a debatable issue. But nonetheless, here's the thing now. So my parents start to beat me. They start to twist my ears. They start to hit me with stripped tree branches. Start to hit me with clogs. Whatever they could. Extension cords. Anything to make me stop being this way. So that's where the childhood trauma begins. And so now once the childhood trauma begins, now they get the desired reaction, which is that I stop being social. I start shutting down because the pain is unbearable after a time. And so when the pain becomes unbearable after a time, I then start to act the way they want. I become this model student. I'm doing well in academics, but I'm socially unbalanced because now I don't know how to deal with people anymore because every time I go to deal with people, all I'm envisioning is pain and suffering from my parents, right? And I don't blame my parents. I mean, you know, we all when we become parents, we make a lot of mistakes too. So they cared for me, they loved me. What they did, was it right? It wasn't right, no. But am I going to hold it against them? No, I can't because they were doing the best they could. But inevitably, what it happens is that now I grew up with this complex, and so because I grew up with this complex, now I become socially awkward, and I become this INFJ dash T or something like that, right? I think that's how I scored on the personality profile. So now I'm definitely introverted, but it's not my natural way. It's not the way I should have been. It's not the way I should have turned out. But for the fact that my parents forced me to turn out a way that I wasn't naturally going to turn out. So now I am realizing, well, okay, the only way I'm going to get ahead in my career is to become a networking individual, to become a socially outward individual, to form alliances, to make key contacts, to get people to like me, get people to realize that, you know what, I have talent, I have capability. Because you can have all the talent and capability in the world, you can be the smartest guy in the world. But if nobody knows you and nobody likes you, you're not going anywhere. That's the reality of it. I would love to admit that we live in a meritocracy society and everyone just gets advanced on their sheer potential, but that's not how that works, right? And politics will definitely teach you that firsthand, right? Our politicians that we elect, not necessarily the best person for the job, but it's the person who you liked and decided to cast your vote for. So here's the thing. Now I'm moving to change my reality. I'm trying to change my life to become a better person. The universe doesn't like change, right? Because the universe gets used to certain things. It gets used to complacency. So if I've been acting for many years as the person with this imposter syndrome, the person that was in the state of fear, the person that had this anxiety, the person that doesn't want to be socially outwards, then the more that I try to undo years of what I've gone through because of my childhood trauma, the more the universe is trying to put me back in the same place that I originally started, which is that I remain this meek, timid person that doesn't reach outwards and doesn't connect with people and doesn't get his way because he doesn't learn how to be charismatic and to win over people and to gain support, right? So I go through a series of events. I apply for this, I apply for that, I apply for this, I put in for that, and I fail miserably each time. And it's kind of funny because I'm just like, I'm pretty qualified. I'm sure on paper I am extremely qualified. So what gives? What's wrong here? What's wrong here is again that I'm trying to build the connections because connections are a huge part of it. Everything is rigged on some level. And so because I don't have the right people vying for me, I don't have the people vouching for me, I don't have the people supporting me, they're going to look at this and say, sounds impressive, but we're going in another direction. So now what happens, right? What happens is you have to, in the face of all this adversity that's coming at you, and they're going to be horrible things. I mean, literally, I think the county newspaper for my county, right? I think it's called the Sun Sentinel, literally wrote an article about me, indicating that I was unbalanced, not stable, or something weird. They wrote, basically insinuated I was not qualified, and particularly less qualified than someone who probably had half the amount or even maybe less than half the amount of experience I had at a certain thing. So they really went out of their way to really kick me while I was down, and they actually chose to omit certain things as well. Like for example, they said, "Oh well, have you ever practiced in the local courts here, and worked with these particular set of judges?" And I said, "Yeah, I did." I said, when I first started in the career of law, I did some maybe some workers' comp, I did some civil, personal injury, things like that. And then I also additionally said, yeah, and when I was with the prosecution, I also did some executive assignments, which forced me to then not practice in Miami-Dade, but to handle that case in Broward. None of that made it into paper because they specifically said, oh, he has zero experience in Broward County. He hasn't stepped foot in a Broward County court. Voters should be concerned about that. That's a thing that is alarming because they had a narrative. They were going after a certain objective to portray me as completely incompetent and unqualified because they knew that the person they needed to boost was far more competent, far more incompetent, right? Because he's got half the experience that I've got. That somehow magically, if they can tear me down enough, they can bring him up enough to make him sound like he's a super great guy, and that he wasn't the guy who was working in this public agency and then ended up practically screwing something up and had to kind of quickly leave that agency and then go work for a family member in their company because of the fact that now he had to kind of head for the hills and not get in trouble. But that's another story, and I'm not going to name any names. I'm not going to go there, but I'm just saying this is the word on the street. So what's happening here is that the universe is reacting to me. The universe is saying, well, here's Woody, who we normally see in a certain state, and he's trying to leave that state. And we're used to him being in the state. Like this is the way things are. This is our equilibrium. Our equilibrium is that he doesn't do things that are adventurous. He doesn't do things that are social oriented. He doesn't do things that are network oriented. He doesn't go after things, trying to showcase his abilities and advocate for himself in a certain way. And so they're saying that no, like it's time to hit him with traumatic events over and over again until he yields, right? Or the alternative is I don't yield, right? I get through it, and by not yielding, I have signaled to the universe now that, ha ha ha, I'm onto the universe. You're trying to stop me. I will not be stopped because this is not a gimmick, right? What do I mean by gimmick? Gimmick means like, okay, you want to lose, I don't know, 40 pounds. So you go on a crash diet, and then you lose the 40 pounds, you hit the mark, and then you're like, yay, and then you just basically go back to some bad habits again, you put the weight right back on. That's a gimmick. A way of life is oh no, I'm truly now vegetarian. I eat only certain things. I don't eat certain processed foods. I don't do this. I don't do that. And you don't care what weight marker you're shooting for. You just want to be a healthier person. You're just like, I just don't eat those things anymore. That's not part of my diet anymore. That's it's not a fad. It's not a phase that I do for 3 months and then whatever. Or I do it at the beginning of the year, make a New Year's resolution, and then it's gone. No, no, no. It's a way of life. It's a habit, right? I think Greek philosophers like to talk a lot about habits. Like whatever your habit is what you consistently show to the universe, and by showing it, that's how you end up in the reality you want to be in, because you have to get past those challenges. The universe will challenge you again and again and again. It's almost like an entity rises up, and it knows that you were in this state, and it's like, where do you think you're going? And you're like, I'm going to a better life because I want to improve myself. And it's like, I don't think so, buddy. And it's like, all of a sudden, it's just throwing thing after thing at you. Oh, this person said you're a scumbag. This person said, you couldn't work your way out of a paper bag. And this person said you're an absolute loser. And it will just throw things at you and throw things at you because one of the most powerful energies in the world is emotion. And based on your emotion, it likes to see those negative emotions coming from you. It likes to see the sadness. It likes to see the despair. It likes to see the fear. It likes to see the unhappiness. It likes to see that depression. And depression can be very difficult as well because depression is something that will attack this neuroplasticity in your brain. Sorry, I can't talk. And you will rewire your brain on a very negative pattern, right? That's what happened with Robin Williams. Robin Williams became depressed. Robin Williams, people were saying, oh, all he needed to do was just turn to God. It's like, oh, no, no, no. What's going on with Robin Williams was way more than just turning to God, because he was an Episcopalian, he was in his faith. But what we need to recognize that because mental health is one of the under talked about issues in our country, that once you rewire your brain to fall along these depressive patterns, it becomes harder and harder to escape those patterns unless you have a method to actively attack that each and every day to rewire your own brain to become something different or something new, because you will be held back and forced to stay in that state of depression. So we can't take that lightly. That's something that's very serious. And unfortunately, as much as I'd like to say that the universe isn't the place that would do that to us and leave us in that kind of place, it can be. Because unfortunately, I think one of the things that we do in the universe is we like to use the words good and bad. The words good and bad are all well and good, but the reality is how you become dispassionate, how you learn how to deal with the traumatic things the universe throws at you, is to learn how to redefine how you look at things. You can look at things as a constant sense of trauma and suffering, and your life never goes the way you want, and you're always sad, and then that is what you will keep on getting from the universe. Or you can look at things as neutral, that okay, it happened, but it's not necessarily bad, it's not necessarily good. It could be, depending on how you interpret it. Maybe you say, well, okay, I failed at this lesson here, but what did I learn? And then you learn something, and then that learning allows you to do better the next time. That's somehow where you can take an event that you ordinarily would consider to be bad, and you can look at it in a good way. By doing this allows you to vibrate at the proper frequency you need to vibrate at, because once you fall into things like the real emotions that are just consuming so much of your energy, like the depression, like the anger, like the jealousy, like the rage, then that's what is going to keep being projected outwards, and it's just going to keep you in a heavy, heavy energy. and it's a heavy energy you don't want to be in. And it's the heavy energy that will keep you stuck, almost like, you know, like energetic quicksand, right? And the funny thing is, quicksand is not even what we really think it is. I mean, the movies and the TV shows make us think that it's a certain thing, but it's actually not as terrible as we think it is. But in any case, the bottom line is to get past it, you have to start becoming dispassionate. This is why Stoicism, Marcus Aurelius, is such a good person to read, because it's one of the things that helps people to get through difficult times. They may be difficult, but it doesn't make them bad. And once you start to realize that, you are in a state of temperance, just like temperance in the tarot card. Balance, harmony, peacefulness, serenity. You start to anticipate things, you're highly aware, you're highly perceptive. Things happen, you don't take it as, oh my God, I need to go in the corner and cry for about 3 hours and I need to do this. Once you've done that, you already lost, right? So you need to be resilient. You need to be resilient even in the face of terrible things, because you will perceive the event and you will not take it to be this bad or terrible thing. You will take it to be a thing. And it's a thing that will not throw you off track, because what happens is, once you start to focus on the word terrible, once you start to focus on the word bad, once you start to focus on that's sad, that's traumatic, that's the energy you send back out into the universe, and your universe will keep you back in the thing you keep projecting back outward to it. So if you're traumatized, then it will keep you in a state of trauma. If you're sad, it will keep you in a very sad situation. To escape, you have to be emotionally resilient. You cannot let these things get to you. You have to regulate your emotions. You have to meet these things with dispassion. You have to say, you know what, I don't see it as a bad thing. I don't see it as whatever. I just see it as just one other step in my life, and I believe my life is meant for greater things. And I will not let that get to me. I will not let that push me back or send me running for cover. I will continue to rise and rise, learn from this, and move forward. If you can stay in that state of resilience all the time, that state of temperance all the time, then you will escape the universe's trap, because that's what the universe is looking for. The universe is looking to push your buttons. Don't let the universe push your buttons. So I believe the dreams are trying to tell me that, you're getting someplace good. But whatever you do, watch out for the enemies that the universe is going to throw at you, particularly because these enemies are clever and they're crafty and they are not simple-minded, right? Because we can easily say, well, oh, okay, I just will avoid bullies. I just will avoid people that are going to come try to fight me, and I will avoid people that's trying to provoke me into an argument. But the universe is saying it can be a bit more tricky than that. These people could even try to set you up in ways you weren't even thinking about. And so what happens is, when they do that, when they catch you off guard, when they surprise you, when they hit you with a very complex plan, you're going to be caught off guard, and the universe is going to have you where it wanted you to be, so that you can then remain in that same state as if it were quicksand. So that's what the dreams are trying to tell me, is to stay focused, to stay on course, do not allow myself to slip and fall back into old patterns, remain ever resilient moving forward. Do not give up no matter what. I hope you enjoyed this message. If you're new here, thank you. I appreciate you. This is a safe space. You're welcome aboard. If you're returning, I'm glad that you're back, and thank you for your support. You keep the channel going. Please like, share, and subscribe. Woodman is signing off. I love you. I love you. I love you. Have a wonderful and blessed day. Take care. Bye.